My phone buzzed just as I was making coffee, and Marcus's name lit up the screen. His voice was urgent, almost shaky. "Baby, I need your car. Please, it's really important. I got an interview today, and this could change everything for us." I froze, mug in hand. An interview? He hadn't mentioned one before. Still, I wanted to believe him. Marcus was always chasing opportunities, always talking about turning his life around. Maybe this was finally it. "Of course," I said softly. "Do you want me to drive you?" No, he cut in too quickly. "I'll go alone. I don't want you to waste your time waiting around. Just let me take the car. I'll bring it back tonight." Something in his tone didn't sit right with me. He sounded more desperate than excited, more nervous than hopeful. But I told myself I was overthinking it. I'd been with Marcus long enough to know he wasn't perfect, but I also knew he could be charming, convincing. I wanted so badly to trust him. I handed him the keys when he showed up at my door. He gave me a quick kiss, promised, "This is it, Danielle. Things are about to change for us." And then he was gone. For the next hour, I tried to distract myself, folding laundry, scrolling through my phone, but a knot of unease sat heavy in my chest. Something just didn't feel right. Why hadn't he told me about this interview sooner? Why hadn't he wanted me to drive him? Almost without thinking, I opened the car's GPS tracker app. I had installed it months ago after a string of Marcus's late nights left me worrying. I told myself it was just for safety. When the map loaded, my breath caught. The little blue wasn't near any office building. It wasn't anywhere near downtown. It was at a beach resort 2 towns away, right along the coast. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. A beach resort? Not an office, not a company, not an interview. My hands trembled as I zoomed in closer, double-checking, hoping maybe I was misreading it. But no, it was clear. Questions spun through my mind. Why there? Who was he with? What was he hiding? My stomach twisted with dread, but under it was a sharp spark of anger. I grabbed my purse, my car's spare key dangling inside. If Marcus thought I was going to sit here waiting like a fool, he was wrong. I whispered to myself, more like a promise than a thought. I have to see for myself. Danielle had always been the kind of person people could count on. She worked full-time at a local accounting office, often staying late to help clients finish their reports. On top of that, she helped her younger brother with school fees and checked in on her mother every week, making sure groceries were stocked and bills were paid. She wasn't rich, but she was steady. She made sure everyone around her had what they needed, even if it meant putting her own wants last. That was who Danielle was, hardworking, loyal, the kind of woman who held everything together quietly in the background. Marcus came into her life when she was 25. He was different from anyone she had ever dated before. Tall, smooth-talking, with a smile that could melt anyone's guard. He wasn't stable the way she was, but he was exciting. He spoke about big dreams, big money, and a future where they wouldn't have to worry about bills ever again. Danielle wanted to believe in that future. At first, it was easy to ignore the small things. The missed job interviews, the excuses about bad luck, the nights he spent with his friends instead of sending out applications. Danielle thought he just needs time. She told herself his ambition was real. He just hadn't had the right chance yet. So she helped him. When his rent was late, she covered it. When his phone was cut off, she paid the bill. When he said he needed a suit for interviews, she bought it. Danielle's friends would shake their heads, whispering that Marcus was using her. Her mother once asked, very gently, "Baby, are you sure this man is building with you, not just taking from you?" But Danielle always defended him. "He just needs support," she would say. "Nobody believed in him before. I do. And one day, you'll see, it will all be worth it." Years passed. She kept waiting for that day. Marcus had his good moments. He could make her laugh until her stomach hurt. He would show up with flowers from the corner store, or surprise her with sweet words when she was tired after work. He had a way of making her feel like she was the most important person in the world. Those moments kept her holding on, believing the struggle was just temporary. But the other side of Marcus was hard to ignore. He could be careless with money, blowing what little he had on nights out. He borrowed more than he could pay back. He always had an excuse for why he wasn't working yet. "They're not hiring right now," or "the manager didn't like me," or "I'm waiting for something better." Still, Danielle stayed. She reminded herself of all the time she had already given him. She thought about the nights they had stayed up dreaming together, planning trips they couldn't afford yet, talking about houses they might one day buy. She told herself that walking away now would mean throwing away years of her heart, years of sacrifice. Deep inside, though, she was tired. She wanted him to grow up. She wanted him to prove everyone wrong, not just for himself, but for her too. Every time her mother gave her that knowing look, every time her friends warned her to be careful, Danielle held on tighter. She wanted to show them that she hadn't been a fool, that her loyalty had meaning. That was why his call about the job interview hit her so deeply. It wasn't just about lending him the car. It was about trust, about believing that finally, Marcus was taking the step she had been waiting for all these years. She pictured him walking into a company office, sitting up straight in that suit she had bought him, speaking with confidence about his future. She wanted that image to be real so badly. It wasn't just his future at stake, it was hers too. Danielle had given Marcus her money, her time, her loyalty, and her heart. She had defended him when no one else would. She had invested years of her life believing he would rise to the man she knew he could be. And in her heart, she needed this moment to be the one that proved she wasn't wrong. She needed him to finally get his life together, not just for him, but for her, for everything she had already given. That was why the GPS on her phone shook her so badly. Because if it was true, if Marcus wasn't at an interview but at a resort instead, then everything she had believed in. Danielle gripped the steering wheel tightly as she drove, her eyes flicking back and forth between the road and the GPS map on her phone. The little blue hadn't moved. It still sat there, fixed at the beach resort. Every mile she drove closer made her chest feel heavier, her stomach twisting with dread. Her mind fought itself. Maybe he's meeting someone there for business. Maybe the company booked the resort for interviews. Maybe there's an explanation. She clung to those thoughts like a lifeline, but they slipped through her fingers the closer she got. Deep down, she already knew. The drive felt endless, though it was barely 40 minutes. Her hands were clammy, and her heart pounded so hard she could hear it over the hum of the car. When she finally turned into the long driveway of the resort, she slowed, almost hoping she wouldn't see his car. Almost hoping she'd been wrong. But there it was. Her red sedan, parked near the front, shining under the afternoon sun, as if mocking her. Danielle's throat went dry. She pulled over, far enough away so he wouldn't notice, and stared at the car. She could have left then. She could have turned around, gone home, and confronted him later. But her body wouldn't move. Something inside her whispered, "Look, you need to see it with your own eyes." Slowly, she stepped out of her car and walked toward the resort. The ocean breeze brushed against her skin, but she felt no comfort in it. Every step made her legs weaker. She stopped at a spot where she had a clear view of the balconies. Guests were sitting outside, enjoying drinks, watching the waves. And then she saw him, Marcus. He was leaning back in a chair, his shirt unbuttoned casually, sunglasses perched on his head. And across from him sat a woman, young, beautiful, with long hair that caught the sunlight. Danielle's chest tightened as she watched Marcus laugh, his hand sliding across the table to hold hers. Her heart shattered in that instant. She couldn't breathe. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a business meeting. He was there, at a luxury resort, holding hands with another woman, while she sat at home believing he was trying to turn his life around. Danielle stumbled backward, nearly losing her balance. She rushed back to her car and slammed the door shut, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Her breath came in short gasps, and she pressed her forehead against the steering wheel, fighting the urge to scream. Her mind spun with emotions, anger, sorrow, humiliation. She had defended him to everyone. She had given him her love, her money, her trust. And now here she was, parked outside a resort, watching him treat another woman to the life he had promised her. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She clenched her fists, her whole body shaking. How could he do this? After everything? She sat there for what felt like hours, frozen between rage and heartbreak. Part of her wanted to storm up to the balcony, scream his lies out loud, and drag him home. Another part of her wanted to drive away quietly and never look back. But in that moment, she couldn't do either. All she could do was sit in her car, trembling, her heart breaking in silence. Danielle sat in the car with her hands gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles turned white. Her whole body felt numb, but her mind was racing. She couldn't stop staring at the balcony where Marcus sat laughing with the other woman. It felt like her chest was caving in, and yet she couldn't pull herself away. What do I do? The question circled in her head over and over. Should she walk up there right now, scream his name, and watch his smile drop when he saw her? Should she wait until later and confront him quietly, where no one else would see? Or should she just leave, never say a word, and let him wonder why she disappeared? The thought of leaving quietly hurt the most. It would mean letting him go without showing him she knew the truth, without making him feel even a fraction of the pain he was causing her. But confronting him, she didn't know if she had the strength. Her mind drifted back, uninvited, to all the things she had done for Marcus. The nights she stayed up helping him polish resumes he never sent. The times she paid his overdue phone bill so he could make calls for job opportunities. The trip she canceled with her friends because Marcus needed money for rent that month. She thought about the shoes she wanted but didn't buy, the classes she dreamed of taking but put off because she was too busy helping him get on his feet. She had sacrificed her own dreams so he could have a chance at his. And now he was using her car to sit at a resort with another woman. Her phone buzzed in her lap, startling her. It was almost as if her hands moved on their own. She unlocked it and typed, "How's the interview going?" Her heart hammered as she hit send. She watched the screen, waiting. Seconds dragged on like hours. Then, finally, his reply popped up. "Still waiting in the lobby. These people are taking forever, lol." Danielle's mouth went dry. Her stomach turned, and something inside her snapped. The lie was so casual, so smooth, like he'd done it 1,000 times. He wasn't even nervous about being caught. He was lying to her face, while holding another woman's hand. Rage bubbled up inside her, mixing with heartbreak. She felt sick, like she might scream or vomit or both. She couldn't sit in the car anymore. She had to move. Quietly, she opened the door and stepped out, her legs shaky beneath her. She walked slowly toward the resort, her eyes darting to make sure Marcus couldn't see her. She found a row of bushes near the outdoor seating area and crouched behind them, her heart pounding so loudly she worried someone might hear it. From there, she could hear his voice clearly. "Yeah, I run my own business," Marcus was saying, his tone smooth and confident. "I've been doing really well, actually. That's why I could afford to bring you here. You deserve this kind of life, you know? You're too beautiful to settle for less." Danielle's jaw dropped. Run his own business? He couldn't even hold down a part-time job. She had paid for his groceries last week, and now he was sitting there bragging like he was some wealthy entrepreneur. The woman giggled, her bracelets jingling as she reached for his hand. "You're so sweet, Marcus. I'm glad I met you. I thought guys like you didn't exist anymore." Danielle bit down hard on her lip to stop herself from making a sound. Her eyes blurred with tears, her whole body trembling. She wanted to burst out from behind the bushes and shout the truth, expose him for the fraud he was. But instead, her hand reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She opened the camera, pressed record, and lifted it just high enough to capture Marcus's voice and the sight of him holding the woman's hand. Every word he spoke was another knife in her chest, but she forced herself to keep recording. He leaned closer to the woman, lowering his voice in a way that made Danielle's stomach twist. "I'm single now. Finally free. I was stuck with someone who never really believed in me, but I let that go. I wanted better for myself." Danielle's breath hitched. She clutched the phone so hard her hands hurt. Stuck with someone? Never believed in him? She had done nothing but believe in him. She had given him everything she had. Her knees nearly buckled, and she pressed her back against the wall of the resort, trying to steady her breathing. It felt like the world was spinning, like her body couldn't keep up with the storm inside her. She ended the recording and slipped her phone back into her bag, her chest heaving. Proof. She had proof now. Proof he was lying, cheating, and making her look like a fool. But what was she supposed to do with it? Should she walk up right now and play the video in front of the woman? Should she save it and show her family, finally prove to them they had been right all along? Should she post it online, let the world see the truth about Marcus? Or should she say nothing, walk away with her dignity, and let Marcus destroy himself without her ever lifting a finger? Her head spun with the weight of the decision. Anger screamed for her to expose him right there, right now. Her pride begged her to walk away quietly, to avoid making a scene. And her heart was breaking into pieces, whispering that no matter what she chose, nothing would undo the betrayal she had just witnessed. Danielle stood frozen in that moment, torn between rage and heartbreak, between revenge and escape. She had the proof in her hand, but no clear path for what to do next. All she knew was that nothing would ever be the same again. Danielle couldn't take it anymore. Her body moved before her mind could stop it. She stepped out from behind the bushes, her hands shaking, her chest burning with anger and heartbreak. Marcus. Her voice cut through the air like a blade. Marcus froze. The woman turned, confused. His smile vanished instantly, and the color drained from his face. Danielle marched forward, every step fueled by rage. "So, this is your interview? This is what you needed my car for?" The woman looked between them, her eyebrows furrowing. "Interview." Marcus stood quickly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Danielle, what are you doing here?" His voice was calm, but his eyes were wild, darting around as if searching for an escape. "What am I doing here?" Danielle's voice cracked, but she didn't stop. "What are you doing here? Laughing, drinking, holding her hand, while you text me that you're waiting in the lobby. Do you take me for a fool?" The woman pulled her hand back from Marcus's. "Marcus, what is she talking about?" Marcus forced a laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. "Baby, don't listen to her. She's just my ex. She can't let go. She follows me around, makes up stories. Don't you dare." Danielle's voice rose, trembling with fury. "Don't you dare stand there and lie about me. After everything I've done for you, after everything I gave you, you still have the nerve to paint me as crazy." People at nearby tables turned to watch. A waiter paused mid-step, holding a tray of drinks. Heads turned, whispers spread. Danielle's face burned, but she kept her eyes locked on Marcus. The woman crossed her arms, glaring at him. "Marcus, is this true? Is she really your ex?" Marcus's voice sharpened. "She's nothing. She's just someone I used to know. She's trying to ruin this for me." Danielle's chest heaved. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. With one tap, the recording began to play, Marcus's voice spilling out loud and clear. "Yeah, I run my own business. I've been doing really well. I'm single now, finally free. I was stuck with someone who never really believed in me." The woman's face went pale. Gasps rippled through the small crowd gathering around them. Danielle held the phone high, the sound echoing like truth no one could deny. The woman shoved back her chair, her voice shaking. "You lied to me. You told me you were successful, that you were single." Marcus's mask cracked. His calm, smooth act vanished, replaced by fury. "Shut that off," he barked, lunging toward Danielle. But she stepped back, clutching the phone to her chest. "You lied to me, Marcus. To both of us. And you would have kept lying if I hadn't come here." Danielle's voice broke, but she didn't care. She wanted the world to hear it. The woman grabbed her purse, glaring at him with disgust. "I don't know who you are, but you're pathetic." She stormed off, leaving Marcus standing there, breathing heavily, his eyes blazing. Whispers grew louder. People were pulling out their phones, recording. Marcus's face twisted with anger and humiliation. "You just can't stand to see me happy, can you?" he spat at Danielle. "You've been dragging me down for years. Always reminding me of bills, responsibilities, acting like you're better than me because you have a boring little job. You're the reason I couldn't move forward. You held me back." Danielle stared at him, her heart breaking all over again. His words hit harder than the betrayal itself. He wasn't sorry. He didn't care. He had never planned a future with her. "You blame me," she whispered, her voice raw. "After everything I gave up for you, my money, my time, my dreams, you stand here and blame me?" "Yes," he shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of his rage. "You were just convenient, Danielle. You took care of me when I needed it, but I was never going to spend my life with you. Look at you, pathetic, clinging to me, embarrassing yourself in public." The words cut deeper than any knife. Danielle's legs shook, but she stood tall, refusing to let him see her crumble. The crowd murmured angrily now, people glaring at Marcus, shaking their heads. "Enough," she said softly but firmly. Her voice steadied as she put her phone back in her bag. "You don't get to break me anymore. Not here, not ever again." Marcus sneered, but the power was gone from his eyes. For once, everyone could see him for who he truly was. A liar. A coward. A man who had built his life on excuses and lies. Danielle turned, her heart still bleeding but her head held high, and walked away as the crowd's whispers followed her. For the first time in years, she wasn't defending Marcus. She was freeing herself. Danielle walked out of the resort with her heart pounding, but each step felt lighter than the last. Behind her, Marcus's angry voice faded into nothing. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. For years she had been trapped in his promises, his excuses, his lies. Now, for the first time, she was walking away for herself. When she got into her car, her hands were still trembling, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from release. She took a deep breath, unlocked her phone, and without hesitation pressed block on Marcus's number. The little confirmation box popped up, and she hit yes. Just like that, his calls, his texts, his voice cut off. She sat there for a moment, staring at the screen. Then she opened the GPS app, the same one that had revealed the truth. With a few swipes, she deleted the car's history. She didn't want to track him anymore. She didn't want to know where he was going or who he was with. That chapter of her life was closed. The first days after were hard. Danielle cried when she was alone. She felt the weight of all the years she had wasted, all the sacrifices she had made. She thought about the birthdays she had skipped with friends because Marcus needed her. The money she had poured into his life. The endless defending of him to people who saw through him long before she did. The pain of realizing she had been the last to know. But little by little, something began to change. She leaned on the very people she had once pushed away. Her best friend hugged her tight and said, "I'm just glad you finally see what we all saw." Her mother didn't say, "I told you so." She just held Danielle's hand and reminded her, "Baby, you're stronger than this." For the first time in years, Danielle let people support her instead of carrying the burden alone. And instead of pouring her energy into saving Marcus, she began pouring it back into herself. She signed up for the photography class she had always dreamed of taking. She stayed late at work, not because she had to, but because she was excited about building her own career. She treated herself to little things she had always denied: flowers for her apartment, a new pair of shoes she actually wanted, a night out with friends where she laughed until her cheeks hurt. Slowly, the emptiness Marcus left behind began to fill with something new: peace. Danielle realized she didn't need Marcus to prove her worth. She had been worthy all along, worthy of love, respect, loyalty, worthy of someone who didn't just take from her but gave back. She no longer felt desperate to prove her friends and family wrong. Instead, she was grateful they had loved her enough to worry. One quiet evening, as she sat on her balcony watching the sunset, Danielle opened her phone one last time. She scrolled to Marcus's contact, the number she had already blocked, and pressed delete. It was just a few taps, but it felt like closing a heavy door and locking it for good. She leaned back in her chair, breathing deeply, her heart finally calm. Marcus had taken years of her life, but months passed, and life felt different for Danielle. The pain that once filled her chest had slowly faded, replaced with a steady strength she had never known before. She could finally look back at what happened without breaking down. What once felt like the end of her world now felt like the beginning of her freedom. She often thought about Marcus, not with longing, but with clarity. She realized now that love, without respect, was not love at all. It was a prison, one she had locked herself inside without even knowing. She had loved him, but he had never truly loved her. Not the way she deserved. And she promised herself she would never ignore those signs again. Her days were no longer filled with waiting for a text or worrying where he was. Instead, they were full of things that gave her joy. She worked hard at her job, and her boss noticed her dedication. She picked up her camera on weekends, capturing little moments of beauty that reminded her how much life had to offer. She spent more time with her family, and the laughter around the dinner table felt like healing. One evening, sitting on her balcony with a cup of tea, she caught her reflection in the glass door. She was smiling without even realizing it. A soft, honest smile, not for anyone else, but for herself. She whispered, almost like a vow, "Never again. I will never settle for less than I deserve." Danielle had walked through heartbreak, betrayal, and lies, but she came out stronger. She was no longer afraid of being alone. She was no longer desperate to be chosen. She had chosen herself. And that choice, she knew, was the most powerful one of all. Hey besties! Thanks for sticking with me till the end of this emotional story. Imagine lending your car to your boyfriend for a job interview, only to track it and find him at a luxury resort with another girl. Painful, right? But sometimes heartbreak teaches us to choose ourselves first. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and subscribe for more.
See you next time.